Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting and good communication as well as how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And today's video, we're talking about how to teach your child the value of money. In this video, we're going to be talking about why it is important to teach your children the value of money and where a lot of parents go wrong when they're trying to teach their children the value of money. And the answer to that may surprise you. Then I'll talk about what I've done with my family to help my children understand the value of money. So I have 4 children of my own, and they have all reached adulthood now. I also was a therapeutic treatment care parent for troubled teens. They were all between the ages of 12 and 18, so we had to get them prepared for the adult world. We needed to teach them the value of money too. Now, why is it important for a person to learn the value of money? Well, there are multiple reasons. It usually instills a good work ethic into a child if they understand that the things around them have value. Usually they take care of things a little bit better if they know that they have to purchase those things. Oftentimes they work harder for money or for things that they want in life, and many times they also save their money, which is a good thing, instead of just spending it willy-nilly. I think a lot of parents go about teaching their children the value of money in the wrong way, however. Many parents just give their children money so that the child can start purchasing things, and they hope that will teach the child the value of money. And then for some reason, it doesn't necessarily work. Just today, I happened to be talking to a parent on one of my weekly teaching self-government support calls. So I have a TSG support group where I answer people's parenting questions, relationship questions, things related to behavior, schooling, all kinds of stuff every single week. And there was a parent on this call, and they were talking to me about consequences for their children and about how they like to take things away from their children to teach their children consequences. Well, in the teaching self-government model, I always teach that a person should get the opportunity to accept their negative consequence, otherwise they won't learn self-government. So I was explaining that the child needed to learn work. Well, this particular parent said, well, we have people that come into our house all the time, they do all the cleaning, they do all the work, so isn't it better if I just take things away from the children? And I actually said, no. Even if your child has to do the same work that somebody else just did in the house so that they learn how to do that job, it is better for the same thing to be done twice than for the child never to do it at all. So number one, when it comes to accepting a consequence, they need to do something so that they realize they are accepting that consequence instead of having something done to them, which doesn't give them as much of an opportunity to accept that consequence. But number two, they need to have the opportunity to actually do work. Now, there's many ways that I talk about doing work. On this channel, I have multiple videos talking about teaching your children how to work, those types of things. So I'm not going to go into that now. But what I wanted you to understand was that work and money are actually related to each other. If your child doesn't get the opportunity to work for their money, then they don't understand the value of work either. Work you can learn the value of just by doing work, but if you're just being given money and you never have to do work to get that money, then you lose the value of the money, but you also lose the value of the work. So many parents think that they'll give their children an allowance or an allotment or something like that, and that will somehow teach the child the value of money, but that doesn't necessarily do the trick. Now, if you've subscribed to this channel, then you know that I really believe in helping my children learn adult skills early on. I teach all kinds of skills, not just accepting consequences, but how to follow instructions, accept no answers, disagree appropriately, and how to do a lot of other adult skills. So one thing that I did, and from some people this may be a little bit unpopular, I know that ahead of time going into this, But I want you to know that this was very effective at teaching my children the value of money and the value of work. And that was that we didn't just give them everything, including clothes. So our children knew that by the time that they got to be 12 years old, that they would be responsible for buying their clothes and shoes. That meant they had to have money coming in. Now, obviously not a ton of money. And of course, at birthdays and Christmas, we would give them clothes and shoes and stuff like that. But if they wanted anything extra related to their clothing, shoes, or to buy a gift for a friend or a sibling for Christmas or a birthday, or if they wanted souvenirs when we were traveling out of town, all of those things had to be purchased by themselves. So this meant that they had to start saving up their money and planning very carefully what they wanted to use it for. So my children, I remember one time they were talking to a friend and their friend said, you know, in our family we have a joke. We ask our mom what she's going to give us for Christmas, and she always jokes and says socks and underwear. That would be so boring. And I remember one of my children saying, I do ask for socks and underwear for Christmas. That is what I want for Christmas, so that I don't have to buy them myself. Their friend didn't really know how to take that, but that was the truth. We gave our children the opportunity to buy their own things, which means when we gave them stuff like socks and underwear, they valued it. If our children wanted to earn even more money, we didn't just give it to them. We had them come up with ideas for how to earn it. So they would start businesses sometimes, like babysitting businesses, car washing businesses, landscaping businesses, pet care businesses, those types of things, where they would start to earn money. They also would ask grandparents if there was anything that they would need help with. Now, this was on a regular basis, but sometimes they would also say, you know, Grandma, I'm trying to earn some money. Is there anything that you would need help with for money or for pay? Now, in our family, when they did chores and stuff around the house, which was all the time, because every single day our family was working together and independently, we didn't believe in giving our children a free ride when it came to the maintenance of the home. We wanted them to have that as a top priority in their life so that they would have the opportunity to learn all the adult skills that they would need to take care of themselves for their future adult lives. So that meant we didn't pay them for their responsibilities like laundry and cleaning bathrooms and vacuuming floors and stuff like that. But if they wanted to earn extra money outside of doing their regular labor, then they could come to us and they could apply for a job. So I kept a running list of things at my home that they could come and apply to do for a certain amount of money. And what they would do is they would say, okay, Mom, I really want to earn $5. Is there a job that I could get done for $5? And I would say, well, let's look at the list. So they would look at the list and certain things would say $5 out to the side. And I would say, okay, so it looks like you can clean out the refrigerator for $5. So when are you planning on doing that? How long do you feel it's going to take? So when do you think you'll be done with the job? They would give me all of those parameters. Then I would decide to hire them and they would check back when it was done, hopefully around the time they said the job would be accomplished. And then they would get paid for that job. They did sometimes get paid for jobs, but only when they applied for pay for a job in the home. Other things that we did when they were little to teach them the value of money was we would play little games. So we would get out the paper pretend money, pretend coins, and we would make little checkbooks. And these little checkbooks would give them the opportunity to write checks for things, as well as use their play money. So we had the family town. And I was a homeschool mom, so this was really easy to do sometimes as just part of our school day. We would have a cafe. This would include where they could eat lunch, get snacks, those types of things. And they would have to come and pay with their paper money or with their checkbooks. Now, if they got a lot of paper money, they could put it in the bank. So we would have one person who would play banker and they would take their money and tell them, you have this much money in your account. So they would write that in their little check register and then they would write checks out and they would practice writing checks. So that type of pay system, they all had a job where they can earn money, but then they all also had other places in our family town where they could spend money. So this is the same as like going to a children's museum where they have a little town set up where they can go to a store and go to a barber and those types of things. But in this case, it was different in that they only had a certain amount of money to work with. So they had to budget that money. Now, another thing I did to teach the children budgeting is I would take them shopping with me. Now, it is true that there are certain times in my life when I had more money than others, money to do the family shopping with. And so sometimes I cared about budgeting and sometimes I didn't. But if the children were ever with me when they were young, then I would spend the time saying, okay, we want to find the cheapest price on this. Or I would say, normally I buy this brand and it costs this much. Let's see if it costs that much today. So they could see if something was starting to have an inflated cost. Maybe we were going to experience inflation during that time. We would talk about that. Or if I said to them, listen, we need to buy 6 things. We've got this much money to buy it in. I would give us a budget of what I thought it would be just about, knowing that we'd have to price shop on a couple of things, right? And so then we would go and do the shopping. Then there came to be a point where I allowed them to do the shopping all by themselves with a certain budget, and I would wait for them at the front of the store. I would teach them how to do the family shopping. It wasn't their money, but if they didn't get everything on the list, then what was it that we weren't going to have for a recipe or something? And we would have to deal with that the rest of the week. I wouldn't just go and take care of the problem. Children have to have some losses. They have to experience some failures sometimes to really understand that it's important to budget money, to earn enough money, and to spend it wisely. And so giving our children the opportunity to pay for their own things, to sometimes budget some of the family finances, to apply for jobs, create businesses, and spend money in the way that they chose, help them all learn the value of money. Now, in our family, we also believe in tithing, so we made sure that our children also recognized that the fact that they could earn that money, the fact that they got that blessing was directly related to their relationship with God, and so that they should tithe some of it back to God, and they should save some of it for future purposes. So we did teach our children to tithe and to save. In fact, I read our children books. One of the books was called The Richest Man in Babylon. This was a book my father read to me when I was young, and it would go through the percentage of money that you should actually live on versus how much you should save. And that was very helpful. In fact, I taught my children, really, you should save half of your money, tithe 1/10 of your money, live on 40% of your money, and then you'll always have enough money. There are some children that are better at saving money than others, and that's just how it is. Sometimes some people are more impulsive in their personalities or value physical objects or newfangled things a little bit more than others. So keep that in mind. Just because one child struggles doesn't mean they don't understand the value of money. It could just mean that they need a lot more practice at it to actually rein it in. So learning how to value money is just one component of learning self-government. There's so many more videos about teaching self-government on this channel. There's one that I think you'll really enjoy next, all about the skills and principles of self-government. It's a full-length class called The Not-So-Known Secret for Parenting Success. Click on the link to that video now. I'll see you there.